For families pushing west across North America, sickness was often more dangerous than starvation or violence. Doctors were scarce, hospitals non-existent, and supply wagons carried only the bare essentials. Yet thousands survived brutal journeys, harsh winters, and isolated homesteads through practical medical knowledge passed down by experience, not textbooks. These frontier medical hacks were not folk superstition. They were hard-won lessons learned through failure, adaptation, and observation. Many of them still carry relevance today when modern systems fail or help is far away. Why frontier medicine was about survival, not comfort. Before antibiotics and emergency rooms, pioneers understood one truth clearly. Prevention and early action mattered more than treatment. Illness left untreated could end a family's ability to work, travel, or defend itself. Medical knowledge became communal property, shared around campfires and kitchen tables. What follows are 12 of those forgotten practices, explained with historical context and modern-day application where appropriate. Clean wounds immediately because infection was the real killer. Pioneers learned quickly that even small cuts could turn fatal if ignored. Without understanding bacteria, they recognized patterns. Dirty wounds led to fever, swelling, and death. Frontier families cleaned injuries immediately using boiled water, alcohol, or strong herbal teas. The lesson that survives today is straightforward. Immediate cleaning and protection of any wound remains the single most important first step in preventing infection, especially when professional care is delayed. Boiling water was treated as medicine, not just hygiene. Many frontier illnesses came from contaminated water. Dysentery and cholera wiped out entire wagon parties. Pioneers noticed that families who boiled drinking water suffered fewer stomach illnesses. Today, this remains one of the most reliable survival practices. In any emergency situation, boiling water for at least several minutes dramatically reduces disease risk without requiring specialized equipment. Willow bark was used to reduce pain and fever. Long before aspirin existed, pioneers relied on willow bark tea to manage pain and inflammation. The bark contains salicin, a compound later refined into modern pain relievers. While this is not a substitute for modern medicine, the historical lesson is important. Natural sources of relief were used carefully, in moderation, and as part of overall recovery, rather than as a cure-all. Honey and grease were used to protect burns. Burns were common from open fires and hot tools. Pioneer families often applied honey or animal fat to minor burns to seal the skin and reduce infection. Modern medicine, confirms honey's antibacterial properties, though nowadays sterile medical-grade honey is what's preferred. The enduring principle really is that burns need protection, cleanliness, and moisture control to heal properly. Isolation of the sick, it prevented family-wide disaster. Without even knowing about viruses, pioneers still practiced quarantine. A coughing child or feverish adult was often separated into a single room or tent. Dishes were cleaned separately, bedding aired outdoors. And, of course, visitors were restricted. This habit alone honestly saved countless families. The modern takeaway is timeless. Isolation during illness is one of the simplest and most effective disease control strategies. Herbal poultices were, commonly used to draw out infection. Pioneers would often turn to plant-based poultices made from onions, garlic or various herbs to manage swelling and abscesses. While these remedies weren't exactly a replacement for antibiotics, they were really based on the observation that certain plants could help reduce odour, heat and inflammation. These days, the real value lies in understanding that reducing swelling, keeping wounds clean, and, closely monitoring the progression of infection are absolutely critical steps, especially when professional care just isn't available. Bone setting was considered practical knowledge rather than professional medicine. On the frontier, a broken bone could mean, honestly, permanent disability if it was mishandled. So, experienced settlers learned the basics: proper alignment, splinting with wood or bark, and, of course, immobilization. Now, the modern relevance here isn't really about trying your hand at amateur orthopedic care, but rather it's in understanding just how important stabilization and transport are, much more so than any sort of aggressive manipulation when injuries happen. Nutrition, back then, was truly considered a part of medical care. Pioneers, they noticed that folks who ate well actually healed faster and, managed to resist illness for longer stretches. Broths, preserved vegetables and fermented foods, these were given to the sick. This wasn't about comfort food, not at all. It was, in every sense, medicine. Even today, proper nutrition remains absolutely foundational to recovery and immune resilience, especially during those long, stressful times. Cold and heat were used deliberately to manage symptoms. Cold compresses reduced swelling, while heat eased muscle pain and stiffness. These methods were applied carefully and observed closely. The principle remains sound. Temperature management is a simple but powerful tool in injury and illness support when used appropriately. Mental resilience was considered essential to physical survival. Frontier journals frequently mention morale, hope and determination as factors in survival. Isolation, grief and exhaustion weakened the body's ability to heal. Families supported each other through shared routines, prayer, music or storytelling. Modern research, confirms what pioneers knew instinctively. Mental health directly affects physical recovery. Preventive hygiene became routine, not optional. Regular washing of hands, tools and cooking surfaces became standard practice in experienced settlements. This wasn't about comfort, it was about survival. Even today, basic hygiene remains one of the most effective defenses against disease. Knowledge sharing saved more lives than supplies ever could. Perhaps the most important medical hack was, communication. Skills were taught, not hoarded. Families learned from neighbours who had survived outbreaks or injuries. This tradition, reminds modern survivalists that shared knowledge multiplies resilience far more than stockpiled gear. Why these lessons still matter. These pioneer medical practices were not about heroics or miracle cures. They were about observation, restraint, prevention, and, well, community. In a modern world where medical systems can be overwhelmed or inaccessible, these lessons remain deeply relevant. If you value historical wisdom that still applies today, subscribe to the channel for more in-depth survival history and practical lessons drawn from the past. And share this video with someone who understands that real resilience is built on knowledge, not convenience.